Things. So yeah, I mean, it was next morning. I had to go get him, or I had to go meet them at the hospital, and then my parents came down, and dude, I was just sitting there like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, because one thing I will tell to the end of this day, and people can say I'm fucking jaded or whatever it is, dude. When I went to the University of Alabama, like, it was so normal for everybody to be doing drugs that you didn't fucking question it.
Yeah.
I didn't question
it. It was just accepted,
if
yeah.
this what you do, go for it.
Yeah.
I never took pain medication, right? Like, I mean, I've eaten a bunch of Lortabs in my life, but I've never been a big pain medication guy. So when it came to that, I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, and so but I did know that obviously what was going on, and then, you know, my parents are there, and I'm just like, I'm, dude, so fucking shocked and in trauma, dude. I'm like, I don't remember. I remember getting to the hospital. I can never ever tell you where I went into the hospital, how I got to his room. Only thing I remember is walking in and somebody saying it's worse than I think it is. It's worse than you think it is. And I went straight to the bathroom, threw up all over the bathroom. And I don't remember, completely don't remember any of the rest. Like, in there with him on the ventilator with my parents, said goodbye, can't tell you what I said, don't have any clue. And it was just you know, we had to get in the fight with we got in a big fight with the district attorney. They wanted to give this kid, they wanted to treat, who was, you know, 18, they wanted to give him, treat him as an adult, and charge him with murder. And my parents fought that tooth and nail, in which they didn't do that. He just ended up getting, like, supervised visits on the week. He had to go to jail on the weekend, work during the week. He later killed himself of a heroin overdose, and then his brother, about a year later, killed himself as an overdose.
Dang.
So it's just like, you know, it's just a fucked up story, right?
Yeah, man. I was like, did that? I mean, obviously you were drinking before this, right?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I was drinking and drugging too. Like, listen, I liked uppers. I did coke in college. I did it afterwards. I just didn't do pills because, like, at one point I took a half of a Xanax one time, and I'd had like a beer and a half, a 16-ounce beer. 16-ounce beer and a half another one, and I passed out right there. Missed the bowling, everything that we were going to go do that night. Sitting down on the ground, Indian style. I was like, well, this ain't fucking for me.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is not
Zero fun.
Yeah. I missed the whole fucking party.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't really do pills, you know. So, you know, I smoked pot a little bit in high school. You know, we got drug tested either on baseball or golf team.
That blows my mind that they drug test kids in high school, dude.
It's just so fucking stupid.
We got drug tested.
Because that's going to stop them,
Yeah,
right? That's going to deter them.
You know, that blows my mind, dude.
And so we were getting drug tested, so I didn't really do it that much. But then, dude, when I got to college, man, I mean, pot turned into the love of my life, and it really did after my younger brother passed away. Because, dude, I could get fucking so stoned. I could go out, and I could act like nothing fucking ever happened. I put on this mask. I had really close friends. We were well connected at Alabama. You know, we got into bars. People protected me. They just kept shoving me drinks, like all that kind of shit. Because, again, it was big news. And I had, like, people that I knew but didn't know come up, you know, pat you on the back and be like, really sorry, man, to hear about your brother. I'm like, brother, I'm just trying to get a second not to think about this. Please.
Leave
I
me
mean,
alone.
I know they meant good,
Yeah.
but I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to go out and have a good time and not think about, you know, all the shit that's
I'm doing this to
going on.
escape.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
not
like
me to
not be
remind
here
me.
so that you can talk about it.
You can talk
know?
about it, man.
It's like, I really hate to hear about your... Well, I do too.
Yeah.
I'm fucking fortunate.
Yeah.
So, but we can get started whenever y'all want. This is just kind of a prelude into what'll...
Yeah, we've already been rolling, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of, so you didn't even know, did you, dude? You know, we kind of already been going, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, but
Is that okay?
is that okay?
Doesn't hurt my feelings.
Okay. All right, yeah.
Doesn't
You
hurt
know.
my feelings. But yeah, so I mean, you know, that was when it truly, you know, like because I was able to, you know, in a weird way in my family, you know, I kind of got tapped as the strong one in that I needed to watch out for the other family members and kind of help take care of them, and you know, and I did, you know, I mean, I felt, because right after this happened, I mean, that happened in November. I graduated college in that spring. I got a job. I felt like I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof, right? Like, I got this shit. You know, so I stuffed stuff down the entire time. I never faced the reality of what happened in any way at all. And still to this day, like, I see a therapist once a month, a drug and alcohol specialist, but also a therapist. And you know, it took forever for me to be able to admit that I went through a traumatic situation. Because in my head, bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
Fucked up stuff happened, and I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, this happens, now I understand more because I've been through it, but this happens to people all the time. Like, I was not unique in that, but I thought I was unique in that. And so, you know, my track record had proved to me, it's like, fuck, if you can get through this,
Yeah.
you can get through anything, and I can just keep on going, mowing through, taking care of stuff, and I'll be all right, right?
Yeah.
You know, eventually it all came out, and, you know, and that was in the midst of a lot of alcohol and drug use. You know, alcohol's a depressant, right? And once it finally kind of started to hit, you know, that ramped everything else up. But there was a lot of things, you know, that were also going on in my life at that time that were very true to the depression that I was going through that I didn't even realize, because I had told myself long enough, you know, that I was, you know, or tried to show everybody else that I was fine, you know, that I had believed it myself. I tell people all the time, you know, like, I could have waken up, watched my dog get run over and get hit in the face with a 2x4. And if somebody had asked how I was doing in that moment, I would have told them fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's just what I knew. Like, what am I going to tell you about this for? Right.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the way things were, which, you know, led into suppressing everything and never really dealing with it. So, you know, the drugs and the drink had been around for years. It just kind of all fell in, you know, a lot of things hit at one time.
Yeah. And you just, so you're just like in college and everything, you know, obviously that happened with your brother. Like, I know it was kind of in the back of your mind, and the drinking and the drugging kind of, I guess, suppressed it. But I mean, were there times you would come to and be like, bro, I don't know if this is the best way to deal with that? Or were you just to a point?
I didn't think that I was dealing with it that way.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was just doing things in a normal way. And this goes back to, like, kind of talking to a therapist. It's like, dude, my mind was not, I can understand now that my mind was not developed enough. I had not been through enough life experiences to really understand that.
Yeah.
Right? And at that time, dude, I was 21. I was in a fraternity at Alabama. We partied. That's what you did.
Yeah.
You know, like, I was not doing anything different than anybody else was. There was a lot more stuff going on in my head, more than likely.
Yeah.
You know, and you drink to, well, I don't want to deal with those people at the bar.
Yeah.
Smoke pot to where I can be happy and put on that face.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was an everyday thing. I mean, and this kind of goes into, how jaded I guess I was to all this. Like when all of this happened, very close friends that are still close friends with me today, they brought me drugs, pot, pills, saying, hey, you're going to need this.
Yeah.
You're going to need this, And so without even realizing that I was like trying to medicate myself, I was medicating myself and running from it from the get-go.
Yeah. So like when you left college and everything, obviously just going into adulthood, like when you graduated and everything, you got your job, it was just a natural progression of like, this is just what I do.
So it kind of came and went, like for one, I worked at a local restaurant that started here in Birmingham for like 12 years. And when I came back to Birmingham after Alabama, I was getting I was sitting to get my master's, and so I was working for him again, managing his places at night. So, dude, like the party never ended. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever worked in restaurants in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's filled with drugs and alcohol. Yeah. I've worked in multiple restaurants. I've seen it everywhere I go. It is the culture, right? Accepted, right? It was accepted. It was normal. People partied at night. They came in, hungover, worked, busted their butts, did it all over again, right? And so, like, I mean, it didn't just all progressively. Like, it kind of went through a thing where, like, once I was 27, right, I got a job selling steel. I was happier. I had normal hours. I wasn't working at the restaurant all the time anymore. And things kind of slowed down, and about that time is when I met who is now my wife. And dude, I was so happy, right? Like, I mean, we still partied a lot, but it wasn't as excessive. Like, I had this wonderful girlfriend. Things seemed to be okay, but in the background, I mean, I was still drinking all the time. Whether it was 3 beers a night or, 20 on the weekend, I mean, I was still getting after it throughout this again. Like, I never one day ever gave up smoking pot. Because to me, it was my safe place.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that
was your
out.
Equilibrium.
It kept things smooth enough for me. That when something came up, maybe I could not have to feel the feelings or show emotion, right? Like, till I was 36 and I started talking to a counselor and getting into all the parts of recovery that I did, I can also say I never understood or never gave any thought to what real emotions were, right? Like, if I felt bad, I just felt bad. If I felt good, I just felt good, right? Like, I never looked into that. People were like, well, you got to grieve this. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean you got to grieve this? I was like, I got pissed. I did that, I guess. Yeah. And it's all those things. So, when me and my wife meet, she's 2.5 years younger than I am. We get married when I'm 30. She was 27. And life was good, right? Like, we were making decent money at that time. But somewhere after that, and I can kind of lead up to events, that happened in between there. It was like I was kind of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, we had friends, all of my friends were lawyers, big accountants, all types of stuff, right? So we're going out and, I get into drinking fine tequila, like good tequilas, right? And it was good, right? It's good. And so, but that kind of started to, I can have just one of these shots right now, just kind of get things started, right?
Yeah, always.
Plus this is good stuff. It's not like I'm just drinking it to get hammered.
But this is quality. I'm drinking this for the taste.
Yeah.
Right?
This is good stuff.
This is
I'm a classy man.
On Yeho. This is the stuff, right?
This stuff, dude.
Classy man.
And so I kept, finding a way, the excuses gained, and then at one point, even while things were, still good, I started sneaking drinks, right, before. Because I was working at home, my wife was at the office, and we'd be going out on a Friday night with friends to just go have a good time. And I started to, it's like, oh, wow, kind of pre-party a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with this. Well, by the time I had arrived at dinner, like or wherever we were going, I was 5 or 6 ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere I went, I was 5 or 6 ahead. Probably, smoked enough pot to put somebody down by that point, and probably had, a little pot pen with me, right? So, I mean, I did not get out of my safety zone with it, right? Like, I had it on me some way. Because I felt like I needed that. And those, and that's where things kind of started, coming down the line for me, right? I was already into that kind of sneaking drinks period, right? Mm-hmm. After that, soon in this time, I destroy my left foot, right? I folded up under myself. I break, a bone that goes to all pieces of it and tore all the muscles and tendons in it, right? So then I was non-weight bearing for 6 months. And during that, we had good friends that we were in tennis leagues with. It was very competitive, but we all made it fun. There was drinking that was involved in that. But I loved it. I thrived getting back into that competitive part, and I enjoyed it so much. Well, then I break my foot. I'm non-weight bearing, and I can't do anything. I'm on a scooter everywhere I go. I'm being, prescribed a bunch of Loratabs because I was in a miserable amount of pain from the morning I woke up all the way through the night. That was part of the depression that kicked in, right? We were also trying to have a kid, and that was not going well. Mm-hmm. Month after month, 2.5 years of month after month, and having that. And so there was a lot of things that just started not going well, and I was sneaking more drinks. I was drinking in the morning, right, to get past the hangover the night before, hair of the dog. Well, then, that started feeling good, so you just kept kind of rolling with it, right?
Yeah.
There was other points in that. I'll never forget, we went to the beach, me and my wife only, and we had driven down there. I had, gotten a nice bottle of tequila, and then while she wasn't around, I went and bought a bottle of vodka to keep to the side just for me, right? Plenty of beer in the fridge. My
Good old snickeroo.
everything,
Good old snickeroo.
right? But I needed something else so that I could keep it going all the time, right? And we were sitting on the couch after being at the beach and dinner, and I'll never forget it. I had it wedged down behind some pillows in the couch, and she had slid her foot back behind there, and she kicked it. She was like, "What is that?" And I pulled it out, and she immediately got really upset. Somehow, some way in that moment, she knew something wrong was going on, right? That was the second bottle. I forget. This is how this goes, and it makes me kind of laugh. In the middle of this, while my foot's broken, we have. I was in the house. We have a massive tree fall on our house. And luckily I get out of it uninjured, but we start to have a lot of rework to our house, right? I was hiding bottles at that point. And my wife found one, and I blamed it on the workers, right? I don't know. You know me. I don't drink vodka.
What are you talking about?
I don't drink.
What is that?
I've never drank vodka. Like, it must have been those guys, right? Because I could kind of successfully pull that off. These guys were, they were an insurance, rehire crew, right?
Yeah.
You could put it off as that. But then that second time when we were at the beach, she starts to
kind of put it together. Yeah.
Well, at this point, I'm drinking around the clock, right? I'm pissing everybody off.
Were you just acting an ass, or like were you just like
Not
just out
really-
of it?
No,
Like-
not really. But so like my wife started to come home and I would be asleep, passed out.
Yeah.
Right at 4:45, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. No, I mean I got combative a few times. You know, combative as in like you're not fucking telling my parents this, because that's what she started to threaten. She was like, if I listen, you're not quitting. You keep doing this. She's like, I'm gonna have to bring something else in to bring this home. You know. You know, even since I had my first drink when I was 11, right? I've been the happy-go-lucky drunk. Mm-hmm. I mean, I never fought. I never did all those things, which also led to me to believe that I didn't have a problem drinking. Like, I wasn't the one going on rages and blacking out and, you know, getting in fights and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I just went home, smoked pot, and fell asleep.
Yeah.
That was it. You know, but things, you know, I started, you know, as the times went along, man, I started, you know, not cleaning up after myself. You know, the bottles kept being found out of all places of the house until finally, my wife, she was like, I'm calling your parents. I'm just, you know, livid. You're not calling them. You're not going to do that. I'll figure this out. Same old story, right? I've got it. Once I get past this rough patch, I'll be all right. And man, that never happened, right? Like it never got better. And now I know that for all addicts and alcoholics, unless there's a unicorn somewhere, is that, dude, it doesn't get better, right?
Nope.
And I mean, I can remember times when my wife fell asleep, walking out to the car in the middle of the night when it's 20 degrees, butt naked, to go get that bottle out of the car.
Well,
That's what it turned into. You know, it turned into I had to have a sip all the time, or I was going to physically shake
yeah.
so bad, and the withdrawals were so bad. Now, I've learned since then that some people's withdrawals aren't as extreme. Like, they could go a little bit, you know, and it wouldn't be so bad. But, man, I mean, I honestly tell people this. I would wake up in the morning and, like, have to go type emails, and it was like I was Edward Scissorhands. I could not type on my computer to write an email back to people that I worked with because I was shaking so bad until I went and got it. And there was so many mornings where I said, I'm not going to go get it. I'm not doing it. And then, dude, I was so sick from withdrawals that it led me back every time, man. Every time it led me back.
Yeah, dude.
And for so long, I didn't realize how unhappy I was with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, what got you to the point of, like, okay, this ain't the way, man?
Enough trouble, the consequences, right?
Like legal troubles?
So this is what I was going to say.
family
So
or a culmination
all
of-
family troubles.
Okay.
At this point, I had been a couple funny things. So when I was 16, I got a pretty major DUI.
Yeah.
Didn't hurt anybody. Obviously, I was driving 30 miles an hour down Highway 280 in all three lanes. Right.
Yeah.
I get pulled over. I'm 16. I blow a .24, and I mean, it was a pretty crazy little one. And then, you know, when I was the first night, freshman year of college, I had an older brother. I had his fake ID. I went into a little place, bought a beer, walked out, got arrested right away. They're like, dude, they're like, let me see that ID. And they're like, oh, this is good. This is a good one. How's your brother? I'm like, it's not my brother. You know, like, well, show me something else in your wallet that doesn't say Wesley Eccles on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. So I go to the Pink Room in Tuscaloosa, and that was an experience in and of itself. For one, I was sober because I had just purchased the beer.
So you wouldn't even, you didn't even get to enjoy at least
Get
a
to
sip.
join it at that point. But yeah, so the very first night of my freshman year, I got arrested. Should have been arrested thousands of other times than that. But at this point in my life, when, you know, 35 and 36 were rolling along, it was all family. Like, you know, I wasn't going, only place I was going was to the liquor store and back, right? Because I was so isolated, you know, and embarrassed and all those different things that I didn't really go anywhere. So it was all the family trouble. I mean, Suzanne said many times, she's like, I'm not just going to sit here and watch you kill yourself doing this. She was like, you've either got to figure this out and get some help or I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I got into IOP. I mean, I pissed red every drug test they gave me, right? Because I didn't realize that alcohol with a certain type of test that they can keep into you for up to 72 hours,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I would give up drinking for 18, think it would be out of my system going there. And they wouldn't even, at the beginning, they didn't even tell me. I was just pissing red, right?
Yeah.
And then finally they're like, hey, so how's things going, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you haven't passed a drug test yet.
What? What?
What?
No way, dude.
And I mean, and then they start getting my wife involved because I'm failing every drug test, right? And counseling with that was not going good because I felt like I was, getting beat up on and that it wasn't fair and that, just a couple shots here really shouldn't have been that big of a deal. Why are y'all flipping out? I'm having issues. Like, this is...
Y'all relax.
Y'all need to calm down.
Y'all need to calm down.
Y'all are way out of range here, right? Because it was their fault.
It was their fault, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
And, we went through all of that, like all of those things, and, this is also during COVID that all this is happening. So we're doing this on video soon, right? They can hear me slurring my speech.
Yeah.
They know what's going on, And so finally I kept begging them to let me stay. That why would you not just let me stay? I've already paid you this. I'm not here by court. I'm doing this by my own will. Why would you not just let me? They're like, Patrick, because we can't help you, man. We can't sit here and let you be along with everybody else. And being a part of this group and, being this active in addiction. So they kicked me out. I got kicked out of IOP. I'm like, oh shit. What do I do now? Things get worse, continue drinking, obviously. And about 2 weeks after my head counselor at that IOP program, he sends me a text message out of nowhere. Like, hey, Patrick, just wanted to check in on you, see how you were doing. He was like, you want to get together later this week on a Zoom call? And I'm like, yeah, this is great. Nicest guy in the world. I love Richard. We pull up that meeting. I somehow, in my blackout, basically, because I tried to put my mountain bike on top of my car to go to my parents to go do this phone or video conference with the counselor, and I go to put the bike up on my car. I fall. I mean, I still have scars from all the blood and the scrapes because I thought that I was still fine, right? Like I needed to go get my bike tuned so that I could get back on the trails. That's how far from reality that I really was. And I go in there and I sit down on that thing and pull it up. Hey, Richard, how are you doing? It's so good to see you. It's good to see you too, Patrick. How are you? I'm great, Richard. That's not what your mother and your wife have been telling me. And dude, I sink. I just sink in that seat. I was there thinking that he was going to be there to help me out and all these different things. And he was, just not the help that I wanted. Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't the help that I wanted. And he sat down and he was like, Patrick, you've got to go somewhere, Patrick. You need help. You cannot do this by yourself. Most everyone else cannot. You've got to go to residential. You've got to get away from long enough. We've got you this great place already saved for you. It's a place called Cumberland Heights in Tennessee. It's beautiful, and they have really good food. He told me that about the food because, he had gotten to know me. I was a chef when I was in college at a fine dining restaurant. He knew that me and my wife loved to eat and all these different things, so he was throwing that in there. I was like, nah, just don't need that. Like I need to be here with my wife and my family, and that's just not going to work. He's like, Patrick, I went as far as to tell him that I couldn't go because I couldn't bring my own saute pans and knives to cook. This is how far from fucking reality I was. I didn't realize that I was going to a facility where they were going to make all of my meals for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they were going to do everything but shower me and go to the bathroom for me.
Yeah.
Had no idea, right? So, Patrick, you don't need those. So finally, I'm bawling, crying, doing the whole 9 yards that everybody does. Or at least in my experience that I've heard from everybody else. The Hail Mary, the balls, the cries, I'm going to get it, I'm going to be better, all that stuff.
Yeah,
and finally I said, all right. And they're like, all right, you got to go tomorrow. I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Not going tomorrow. At about that time.
Sounds like me, man.
About that time, right? Like this is a broken, record.
Oh
here.
yeah. Oh yeah.
About this time, my wife walks in, and I just start boo-hooing again. And basically at that point, she's like, "If you don't take this help, I'm gonna have to go to Tuscaloosa," which is where she's from, and be with her parents. And again, I thought that, that she was deserting me, right? Like, how dare she just want to leave me? Like, I need you, and here you are, you're just leaving me. Mm-hmm. That's the boo-hoo, poor, pitiful old me, bless my heart.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Finally, I agree to go based on that, right? Because I'm like, fuck, I don't want to lose her, That's not this, Either way, finally I agree, and we go up there, and I get there, boo-hoo, blubber crying all day long. The intake forms. I'll never forget trying to fill out the intake forms. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to die trying to do that, and it took so long to get in at that time. But I get there, and after. The first night was rough, right? It always is. You're in med, they're giving you all the detox drugs. You're thinking about how you got your life, how I ended up in rehab.
Yep.
And which is funny because even at this time, I did not realize I was in rehab. I thought I went to sober living because at one point that was an option on the table. So far from reality, I didn't realize that I had been taken there, and I went to go get nightly meds that night. And I was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. The nurse is so sweet. She's trying to get me talking, make me feel comfortable, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And now here I am. I'm at sober living. She goes, sober living? She goes, no, honey. You are in rehab. And I was like, what the fuck? They lied to me. They sent me to rehab.
Yeah.
Everybody looking around at me like, this guy's first time on the block.
Yeah.
Clearly has no clue what's going on, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't, dude. I'd been drinking and drugging for so long that I had no clue what was going on.
Yep.
And I'm all upset, and I realized that, I'm going to be there for 30 days living with a bunch of other guys.
You're like 30 days, oh my God.
Oh, 30 days, yeah. I'm like 30 days, a whole month. You know what part of my thing is? Like, I need to be at home searching for a job.
Yeah.
30 days, however, I got to get paid. Working is what I know. That's what I do good. They're like, Patrick, you are useless to any employer that would ever look at your resume. I'm like, bullshit. I still work hard.
Yeah.
All of those lies, all of those lies I'd been telling myself that I was still this great employee and that I worked so hard and that, when it came down to it, I got things done, dude. I couldn't get anything done. I couldn't fix anything.
You could finish the bottle, but not your work.
I could finish the bottle, nothing else, right?
Else.
It was like I look back on it now and I was so full of fear, like things that were so easy to me at one point. Seemed like climbing Mount Everest, right? Like everything seemed so tough.
We talk about that, just like paying bills. It's like almost I had to relearn all these things in sobriety. Like you did them like in active addiction, but it's like you really didn't know how to do just relearn your whole life.
I have to go get doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
Well, how do I do that? Well, you need to get a GP. Well, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Dude, just
that's. And you're grown. You're a grown ass man.
36. I've been paying my own bills, but paying my own mortgage. Little did I know I was about to pay my own mortgage and pay a fee and pay for a place to stay at sober living.
Yeah.
But so rehab actually goes great. I fall in love with Cumberland Heights, dude. They
Yeah.
were legit. Food was good. I mean, I ate biscuits and gravy for 35 days straight. 35 days straight. It was great. I loved the place. I loved the counselors. I am so grateful and appreciative of every one of those people there. I mean, I still listen to some of their podcasts. I still, I've gone back and done things as a recovered person with them. And, for me, it was incredible. I learned so much about myself in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of starting to realize where things had, gone so wrong, right? Maybe I do have a problem. So 35 days there, we wrap up. My one-on-one counselor says, you know what? I think he's great. He can return back home, all these different things. Doesn't need to go to sober living. And I left full of knowledge, but I left with this inkling in my head that I did not get my last drunk. Like, I wasn't the one that, since my parents and my wife brought me up there, they weren't letting me drink all the way on the way up there. And that's what people do when they go to rehab.
Yeah,
they drink themselves stupid until they get up there because it's the last one. Well, I didn't get that. And, I don't remember what it was, but it was, let's just see what this, mini will do. And I think I had like 2 or 3. Right? Didn't have anything else the rest of the day. That next morning, I went straight to the liquor store. Because the 3 wasn't enough, right? That barely even got me buzzing. I'd been drinking heavily for years. Went back and got that bottle, and then I can honestly tell you, I got my first COVID shot that week. Had no clue I did. Didn't even know I went. I drove myself there to get this COVID shot.
At least it didn't hurt when you got it.
No, it did not. No, it
Scared of needles,
did
at
not.
least you didn't feel it.
It did not.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it, man.
So, long story short is I did, and I tell everybody I talk to is that I stayed blacked out pretty much for 6 straight days after being in rehab for 35 days, figuring it all out and where everything went wrong. And, that's what's cunning, baffling, and powerful. Like, just like that.
Yeah.
6 days.
Yeah.
Landed myself right back at the same exact rehab. They were willing to take me back, realizing what the situation was. I knew when I got back, I was part of a certain leadership group while I was there that first time.
Yeah.
And I knew when I got back that there was going to be some people that were going to be questioning why I was back so fast, right? I'll never forget one of the counselors there. He's a great guy. I mean, he was the military guy. He didn't. Not everybody loved him. That kind of teaching or that kind of learning is the way I needed it. I needed somebody to be a hard ass on me because that's how I'd learned everything else in my life.
Yeah.
Restaurants, steel, all these jobs, all these things. People yelled at me, and then I figured out how to do it correctly until they didn't. Right?
Yeah.
And I remember walking back out of the intake office. Obviously I'm not too bad this time going in. I've got some thought about me. And, I see this person, and we'll call him Wayne. And he sees me from across the field. It's a big, beautiful field. And he looks at me and he goes, sit your ass down right where you are across this field. I'll come and talk to you in a minute. I'm like, damn. First person I walked out had to be Wayne, the old hard ass.
Yeah.
I did. I sat down right there on some cement outside.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Watched him walk over the 100 yards he was in front of me, just shaking his head. Sits down and he goes, well, what happened? I said, I had to taste the water. I had to test the water. You had to what? You had to test the water? Starts going off on me, how dumb that was, which, listen, the guy was 100% correct. There was no needing to test it. I'd been testing it since I was 11. I was 36 at that time. There was no more testing.
Yeah.
Right? I am a full-blown alcoholic and addict, right? And those next 15 days were very important. I will say I went in there and said, I need help with relapse, recovery. I need to do these things, to fix this, because, man, you want to talk about napalming the earth. I get back from 35 days telling everybody how great it was and all that thing, my family, my wife, and then I stayed drunk for 6 days right after it. I napalmed it.
Yeah.
People were so disappointed and so mad at me. And for good reason, right? Because I went out there and I did that all on my own. Nobody forced me to do any of these things. And so I get back and I'm serious. And at this point, like, even my wife, God love her, we're not getting on the phone as much during these 15 days, because you had calls at night that you could make, because it was COVID. Nobody could ever come and see you. That's what they allowed to happen. And she was really, really upset and scared at that point, right? But I do make the best of those 15th days. And my sobriety date is April 12th, 2021. April 12th was, that Monday when I realized, after that 6-day drunk, that I was going to be going back to rehab. And I haven't drank since. I've made a lot of mistakes. I went back and Suze had gotten me into a sober living, because this time around, old buddy was going to sober living.
Yeah.
He clearly needed more time to be accountable.
Yeah.
To have accountability every single day. And I go to this sober living. I'm not going to name it. I'm actually pretty decently close with the person who runs it now. And I quickly, in the first day, get thrown out. Not for drinking, not for anything, but because, I felt that I was so important that, I could kind of dictate how things were going to run. Yeah. And I got some humble pie really quickly. And it was over something stupid financially that would have been that got fixed after all, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so then I get kicked out. My wife's like, you ain't coming home. You ain't coming home. Yeah. You're not coming here. She took me for one night because I didn't have anywhere to go. And that next morning, I went out and I went and looked at a couple of sober living places. I ended up picking up the one that I did. I can't really tell you why. Like, I didn't grow up in these type of places where I grew up here, right? It's a little bit rougher out in Bessemer.
Oh, yeah.
Belmont.
Yeah.
Out in
To
Belmont.
say the least.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I saw shootings outside of my window.
Oh,
I did. Heard bullets all the time. I was there for 4th of July. Guess what? Those ain't fireworks.
No, sir, buddy.
I chose to go out there, and man, it changed my life. I went there. I got a sponsor. I was going to go for the whole 6 months, but a big part of this story that I haven't gone through, and this is more of the miracle of the recovery, is I left about 4.5 months in. My wife she would have been giving birth at like the 6 months, right? We'd finally somehow, right before I went to rehab, the first time, got pregnant. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole miracle story in there, and we can talk about that later. But but I get into to this sober living. I actually like it. I get back into IOP. Richard lets me back in. He says, "Yeah, man,
Hey, Richard,
you're back in. Yeah. You can come back." I am still probably the longest standing person that has ever been in that program to this day. But I finally finished it. I stayed out at sober living. I worked sober recovery jobs, right? Like a place that I grew up going to, that was my favorite all my life, right down the street in Homewood. I had to go take a job there. I used to go and buy clothes there. Right? I'm 36. I used to have a normal job. I have my friends, people that I know, college mates, people walking in, and there I am. I'm working at Alabama Outdoors.
Yep.
What are you doing here? I'm working. Oh, okay.
Well,
Humble pie.
yeah.
Humble pie, but I did that. I did it anyways.
Humility, man.
Yeah.
And
But
that
you
was
learn a
it.
lot about- you learn a lot about yourself and stuff in those things, man.
I did, because for me, I mean, I worked as general manager for that restaurant I was talking about for years and years. I'd had a lot of jobs per se, right? And here I am making pretty good hourly money, but it was a lifestyle change, I was happy when I could go to Walmart and buy some Sour Patch Kids that I could afford it, right?
Yeah.
And I met a lot of great people out there in sober living, even though those doors come in and out all the time. I met a lot of great people and a lot of people that I see now that are sober now, and it's great to see, right? After that, like I said, I found my sponsor at ALR, and we are still together this day. We worked all the steps. I remember me going to a couple of meetings, 12-step meetings in the beginning. My sponsor was urging me to go to a 6:30 meeting. I was like, a.m., like, not, I ain't making it no 6:30 a.m. meeting. That ended up becoming my home group, right? Went all the time, took a position, did the things that they ask you to do, right? And through that, I became more and more comfortable with recovery. There's different parts of my recovery that, being in that room that I can point out to specifically and being like, this can't be happening, right? Like pinch myself moments. Like I've run into a lot of good opportunities in my time in the rooms and in sobriety. I enjoy being able to go and tell my story to other facilities. I've had the opportunity to do that on numerous occasions. I've been able to bring my story to meetings and all these different things. It's mind-boggling how if I was driving down the street one day, say working, and I saw two liquor stores, one was on the right side and one was on the left side, I would have to stop at both of those liquor stores just to see. Go in, buy something in both. That's how crazy I was, right? To all of a sudden, I go by liquor stores and you don't even blink an eye or bat an eye at it. You don't even, I don't. In my experience, I don't. It took a little bit of time, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when I see alcohol and drugs, I remember absolute misery. So I've been sober for a little over 3.5 years, right? My ass is still on fire, right? I can remember those feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember
I
that.
still have dreams.
I remember being so stuck in quicksand that there was no way getting out, and it was shrinking so bad on me, that I would never get out of it. And that's why, I enjoy doing all this stuff. I love hearing other people's stories, right? Like where I think mine was bad and the things that happened to me were tough, and they were, if I'm being honest, they were. It was a traumatic event that kind of reshaped our lives quite a bit, right? My whole family's things were never going to be the same at that point, right? But that isn't what caused me to drink and drug, right? I had a problem with, and maybe it was ego, that I could figure these things out, that I was bigger than the things that went on, and I could dig myself out of it, right? And experience had taught me that. Not with this, dude.
Yeah.
Not with, it took teams.
Yeah.
it took people kicking me out of. I didn't think that was possible. I mean, unless for using, which I was. I didn't think that they'd just be like, "Oh, we're done with you."
See ya.
It's like I thought that was the point. Is y'all were supposed to stay here. And they're like, "No, we can't help you until you're ready to be helped." And damn it, that ain't the truth.
Yeah.
Sobriety. People say all the time, early sobriety sucks, and it's not easy, right? I mean, there's relationships aren't good, probably broke. You hadn't been winning in a while.
Yeah.
But I found a lot of good in those times, right?
Yeah.
And these days, I look back on it, and all of that pain that I went through and all that pain that I put everybody else through, 100%, it took every single bit of that for me to finally realize that I could not win this. I could not beat this, and that losing this was not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And part of that was the second time that I left what we like to call adult camp, rehab. I had a guy that I really looked up to. I loved his message, the way he talked about things and the way he connected things. And when I was leaving, he walked up to me and he was like, "Patrick, you've done enough partying for everybody. You truly have done enough. And while it was fun and you got to experience all those things, it's over."
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's right. I escaped death putting substances in my body so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was also, I was in college in 2003, right? This was, there wasn't many things being slipped in there, but I never looked at it as if it was. It didn't matter. I was going to do it, right? Alcohol is what brought me in to this. But when I look back at all of my past, there was never enough of any substance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, if I got X amount, I would want double that amount that night, right?
Yeah.
Every time.
So I didn't exactly go to rehab for a certain specific drug, but it didn't matter which one it was. I wanted more of it, and I wanted more of it now, and I wanted the best of it, right? That was my mentality. And that's why I say that I'm an addict, because I know that that's the way it was, right? Like if I was in a room all by myself where nobody else could ever find out, and you put a big old pile of white powder on that table,
You're gonna try it.
and I would need more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would need
This
more.
is it?
Wouldn't,
This is all you're going to give me?
Yeah.
it wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, I mean, I'm doing it. Let's party.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way I used all the time, man. Thank God my parents, didn't give us a lot of money and that I worked and whatnot, because I would have bought more.
Yeah.
And all those little chances that I missed of something major else happening in my life would have, just kept going up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, sobriety is, I don't miss it at all. I went to a wedding last night, open bar, watched everybody else sit there and drink, and all I could think was, God, it's going to suck tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
I get to wake up and go to bed normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I get to do tonight. And it does not hurt my feelings anymore. Because I just, as everybody that's been through this, who's reached whatever their certain bottom was, knows that it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And for me, if I were to pick up again, just like I talked about those substances a moment ago, one would never be enough.
Yeah.
It would be, what's the point?
Yeah.
Give me 30.
Yeah.
Give me all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, and that's just the reality of this disease and how it is inside of me. is that I know that if I did it, that I would be off to the races, and I could never go back there. Like, that amount of exhaustion, and because somebody has said it to me a lot of times, and it makes so much sense. I was either thinking about drinking, I was drinking, or I was recovering from drinking all the time.
Yeah.
24/7, every single day. That was my life story.
Yep.
Luckily, my wife is still beside me. I think sometimes the shit that I put them through, could I put up with that if it was on the other side? And I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I love to think so, especially since I've learned so much from this disease. I mean, I was a tornado through everybody's life, right? And I stopped caring,
Yeah.
you know? And that's what's so wild in this, I mean, I remember, some of growing up, right? Like I said, I tried substances early, right? But nothing really stuck until I was about 15, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God. See, and this is where the stories keep going. So when I was 15, I got a job at Rite Aid. How it all comes full circle, if you remember the Rite Aid
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa a moment ago. I got a job there. They hired me illegally because they needed help. I was 14. They absolutely loved me. I mean, I had learned to work from an early age with my parents' business. I had a couple of my friends get hired. At some point, I looked at this Gatorade box that came in with all the Gatorades to be stocked in the back in the cool area. Fit 2 cases of beer in it perfectly. 2 cases of beer right down in there. We had to go take all the boxes out. We all got fired for that. Stole a bunch of money in beer, and we were the people. This is part of the ego and the cool part, right? Like, we did that. We would go to the high school party. We would pop our trunk. We had cartons of cigarettes. We had all this beer. We sold it cheap to our friends. Mm-hmm. That became normal.
Yeah.
It's all those things that you said you'd never do that become a little more comfortable, a little more comfortable. So I look back, and I mean, I could have tore it up more, but I kept on that fine line of just being in enough trouble to where I can look back at it now and say, wow. That was the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the beginning. And I had no idea what was to come out of this. But to be able to, regain your happiness, a normal life, as y'all know, being productive again, life is so much easier. Yeah. Like, I tell sponsees that, you just don't understand the freedom you get when you are not being controlled by a drink or a drug all the time.
And just telling the truth, man. Like, you don't have to, you literally can just live your life.
Okay,
that's the craziest thing.
And the other
just
thing,
live
too,
your life.
Thing too, let's talk about this, like I'm going to be so boring. My older brother, he grew up listening to what I would consider good music, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he listened to the Beatles, he listened to some of those bands, and they got big into Fish and stuff. I mean, they went all
Widespread Panic, baby,
all over the place.
Widespread Panic,
following Fish. I love Fish. I mean, I have turned my niche. I listen to bluegrass, but dude, I went all over the place going to shows. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll never forget, on one of my birthdays on a New Year's Eve show, I showed up to a Soundcloud Sector 9 show, right?
Okay.
Sitting there in the crowd, and these guys below me are, doing finger dips. I'm like, hey, guys. Never met these gentlemen in my life. Tell them it's my birthday. Like, hey, you want some finger dips? Sure.
Yeah.
Bought a bag right there off of them after. That was my, nothing's going to happen to me type, mindset. But those are the things, I went to shows. I did drugs. Like, how are you going to go to a show without doing drugs? Well, you idiot! You go to the show and you just enjoy the fucking thing.
Yeah.
You don't sit in a long line to go pee and get beer.
Yeah.
You're not feeling like crap. You just go and experience the music.
Yeah.
You know, I met a guy in the rooms because I was wearing a Green Sky bluegrass hat, right? He walked up to me before the meeting. I was nervous as shit, and he said, "Hey man, I got that same hat. Really love Green Sky." And I was like, "Dude, I love him. I've seen him on blah 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 blah." He was like, "Man, He was like, I'm gonna have him booked for a private show coming up. You should go with me. I'll go let you meet the guys."
Right.
He had to leave. Then, out of the meeting at that moment, he went to Montana for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I was like, who is this guy? I asked my sponsor. He's like, "Oh, dude, he brings me to all the Alabama games."
Yeah.
I'm like, he likes Alabama and Green Sky Bluegrass?
Yeah.
He's a few years older than I am. We've become best friends. We go to shows. We go to sober shows. You know, like, I can do everything that I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I can watch Alabama get trashed by Oklahoma last night,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to have a drink over it.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to, you know, when it was game day, you know, listen, you can't start in the morning if you don't drink now.
Yeah.
Right? And
Go,
that
go,
was the
go,
thing.
baby.
And now I go to football games. I don't have to pack all these minis. I don't have to go buy $9 Sprites. I walk into the stadium, I get a bag of peanuts and a bottle of water,
Yeah, and you're good.
and I sit down and I'm good the whole game.
Yeah.
The whole game, right? And I used to never fathom how you would not drink in any of those instances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're crazy. Why
Yeah.
would you not?
Yeah.
Listen, I am all for people that can drink and handle alcohol and drugs.
No.
Well, not really drugs anymore. Everything is cut with something. Too many people are dying.
Yeah.
People that can enjoy alcohol, go for it.
Yeah.
I
That's
am
what we say all the
all
time.
Yeah.
for you
Buddy,
enjoying it. You
go
can
live
do
it-
it
yeah.
right in front of me.
Yeah.
You can make me sniff it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
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 That's you. You can do
Yeah.
that. Me?
I can't.
Yeah.
I physically
I can't do it, buddy.
cannot. My body will reject it. I will revert in a millisecond, I imagine.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because I know now today what my addiction is, right? You know, maybe I didn't start out wasn't born an alcoholic. My parents aren't. I grew up in a great childhood. I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't excessively drink. They still drink to this day. They don't drink excessively to this day, right? Like that's not how I grew up, and that really wasn't like in my bloodline. I continued to drink at such an alarming rate that I crossed an imaginary line, and I'm an alcoholic, and I cannot go back to that.
Yeah.
Right? Like I physically cannot step back over that same exact line. Never go back.
Yep.
And that's where I am in today, you know, like, and it has taken so much pressure off so many things in my life. There is no way I could be a dad if I was drinking. You have a child. When you got a child, man, it's tough. You don't sleep, you don't do it. It was a cakewalk to the middle of active addiction. It was a cakewalk.
Yeah.
It was different. That made things challenging, but the exhaustion and all that, I knew all that
Yeah.
too well.
Yeah.
I knew that, right? And you know, and one thing I'll say, and I don't know how much time you guys have,
Buddy,
still, how long y'all want to
This
go.
on you, dude.
But one thing I do want to bring up is like, and this is the miracles, you know, that do happen. You know, that first time I was there in rehab, right? Suzanne, my wife, says, you know, on the phone, she says, I think I'm late. Huh? We've been trying for 2.5 years. no way in the midst of my highest addiction are we possibly pregnant. Sure enough, these are the little miracles that happen, right? Like I had to, and I don't think my wife will be upset with this, but we had to do a pregnancy test via the phone, where you can watch each other. What is it called? FaceTime.
FaceTime.
We
Yeah.
had to do it on FaceTime, right? And she was pregnant, and I was so excited, and so was she. She was scared to death, right? She was scared to death. Here I am. I'm in fucking rehab,
Yeah.
and I'm finding out that I'm pregnant with my first child. I moaned about that. I said it multiple times that day. I said it all the way until that night I went to go get my nighttime meds, right? And at this point, I'd been there long enough. I knew the nurses well. Mm-hmm. Talked to them every night. They knew that we were going to be taking this pregnancy test. They knew everything, right? Because I'm blubbering, spilling all my guts to the nurses because I'm in rehab every night, right? All that stuff. And I tell them, and they're like, "Okay, so how was the pregnancy test?" I said, "Isn't it so fucked up to find out that you're pregnant with your first child while you're in rehab?" And to this day, it gives me chills because I can never, ever forget this the rest of my life. Both of these ladies, standing side by side, simultaneously said, "You could have been at home drunk." Oh, fuck. Mm-hmm. If I'd have been at home, I would have been hammered, because that's what I did every single day when I was at home. I'd have been hammered for it. And I sat there and I was like, that was one of those moments where it's like, God, I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
Here I am whining about this, And then they both looked at me and they both said, and guess what? Your child never, ever has to see you intoxicated.
Ever.
Boom! I'm like, well, they turned the table around me on this one. I came in to whine, and look what the positivity they're bringing towards me with this. Next day, it's getting close time for me to leave, and I'm going to go to, you have to do like 2 psych evaluations when you're at these adult camps, one in the beginning, one at the end, and all that stuff. I'm going in there, and it's like, "So how are things going? How you feeling?" I was like, "Well, yesterday we over FaceTime, me and my wife, we realized that we're pregnant with our first child." And I said, "How fucked up is it that I found out that I was going to have my first child when I was in rehab?" She looks at me dead in the eye. We're in an office space, rooms down from the nurse's station. She said, "Better. You'd probably have been at home drunk."
Yeah, damn.
Dude, I'm like looking around, like looking for cameras, microphones, and shit. I'm like, what are you how have y'all done it?
Y'all are on this. Y'all are in this together. I know it.
Damn if they weren't right. Damn it if, and you know what, even after that first night, and that's when I realized, it's like, I got to stop rephrasing this. Oh, me, poor me. My poor little heart. I'm in rehab when I found out I was pregnant with that my wife was pregnant with our first child.
Yeah.
How selfish is that thought, right? And that just goes to show how much relearning I had to do.
Yeah.
Right? I was so used to negative things happening, and I didn't bring anything but negativity to the table that I expected those things.
Yeah.
Now I've got 2 children, right? Still not as tired as I was during active addiction, but very tired.
Yeah.
Very tired.
Yeah.
I have problems that arise daily, whether it's with work. Physically, I'm going through a bunch of stuff with my back, protruding discs, protruding all these different things, and they can't seem to fix it, and I constantly hurt, and I don't take drugs to fix it.
Yeah. crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Damn, this had been the time that it would have been normal to use it.
Yeah.
Well, that goes to show how I used all that time up, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's painful and it sucks. Again, what would make it worse? A drink or a drug?
Yeah.
Yep.
It would make it worse.
Yeah. Expeditionally.
And well, I mean, I would go back. I would napalm everything again, and then this time, you know, I don't know if there would be people that would, you know, that would be there behind me. I mean, I think that, you know, that I have shown that, you know, that I can recover and that I can change the ways that I was. Even though, even to this day, I can still be a dick.
Oh
right?
yeah. Well, that's just
Something
being a
doesn't
human.
go my
That's just-
way.
That's just being a human.
It is. But you know what? Me and my sponsor talk about is AA isn't so much about alcohol. It's about teaching us how not to be a dick.
Yeah.
Because man, there's times all the time that I know I'm like, man, I can undress this person
Yeah.
because of the way that they acted to me, right? So I feel that it's justified.
It's warranted
Yeah.
now.
It's justified
Yeah.
now, and I can undress you by this. And I don't have to do those things today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to make those amends. I make mistakes, and I do try to promptly
Yeah.
make my wrongs right. I'm not perfect at that. I'm sure when my wife hears this, she's going to be like, that ain't the way he always is or something. Yeah. But it is progress, right? And I'm trying to get better. Personal growth is a big deal. You know, how can I be of service? Not just in the ways of like what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
Not service work through the programs. But how can I do better by other people every single day? You know, like, can I reach out to help somebody a little bit more? Yeah, sure. I probably can. Am I going to tell you that my day is too busy and that 8,000 things are going on? Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Because I'm still going to make excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it takes me a little sitting down with whether it's prayer, it's meditation, it's texting my sponsor that I'm all pissy about something, for somebody to turn it just a little bit and let me see that out of their perspective. And then I'm like, yesterday I had to tell people that I was a little upset with the program because it has taught me that I cannot act out, right? And I wanted to act out very badly yesterday. I had to go to a wedding that I didn't know anybody at, nobody. And they were half my age and their parents were 20 years older than me. So, I mean, there was no talking to anybody, right? My wife, she really is. She's amazing. I'm lucky to still be beside her. You know, she's gorgeous. She's funny. And I say this only to make a point. My wife was homecoming queen in high school, right? This is no popularity contest. Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. She has a lot of friends. She has probably been in 40 weddings, plus all of my friends.
Yeah.
I've been to hundreds of weddings. If I have, in my mind, without some other perspective, my mind is, I don't know this person. I may never see them again. Why do I need to be there, right? And I could have gone berserk on that yesterday
Yeah.
because all those things were true.
Yeah.
I just kind of went, you know. I just kind of went. And I'm not saying I was perfect through all of it. I made a couple little quick points here and there.
Because we got to.
But you know what? We were there to eat. We were there to celebrate them. And we were there to dance, even with my bad back.
You cut a rug, huh?
Yeah,
Gotta
it did.
dance.
All right.
That's what we did. We went to the ceremony. We went to the party. We had the sit-down dinner. We went and danced. All the things, you know. Everything doesn't have to be about me all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's a beautiful thing too.
Yeah.
Man. It ain't always about me. You know, even though I want to make it at times about me.
Sometimes I do. Like nowadays when I go in, I'm really regimented in a lot of things. And my therapist tells me that. He's like, you know, maybe not so rigid, maybe a little less rigid, right? But I go to the same places that I like, right? And there's a coffee store, you know, that I like to go into. And they know my name, right? And then they have a new person. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know your name. Listen, dude, I am not that important. I'm buying a cup of coffee from you. You have no reason to remember my name.
Yeah.
Like, and I say that funny, but that's the truth. I'm
Yeah.
just a regular guy. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. I'm just not putting whiskey in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a lot. There's a lot of growth in that, right? You know, not that I was always, like, even with my younger brother passing, right? Like, it wasn't oh me, oh my. But I did believe that I was different and that I had special rights to do the things that I was doing, because if you had been here too, you would get it.
Yeah.
Right? But that's making me special. Mm-hmm. That's putting me somewhere where others aren't because of what happened in my life. Do I want everybody to have that same experience? Hell no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So why am I putting myself on a pedestal for it?
Yeah.
Why am I so unique?
Yeah.
And, you know, and if I can kind of keep that about me, be looking to help others when I'm in a shitty position, you know, because that's normally the only thing that makes me feel better, right? Is actually being positive. You know, that's what I try to do. Try to get outside of myself a little bit. I love doing things like this.
Yeah.
I love recovery.
Yeah.
And I ran from it.
Yeah.
I listen to all these recovery podcasts, and when I hear these wild stories, I'm like, dang! That's like me 10 times on steroids.
Yeah.
And this person's like working to get a PhD in, you know, in
Yeah.
therapy or something.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's what I like to see.
Yeah.
You know, like, how can you break through and, you know, and be the person that you really want to be? Because I can guarantee you, there ain't nobody that's been in those low lows that wanted to be there.
No.
Hell no.
No.
I mean, there's
Never thought I could be. Never thought I
You want to know
could be.
something funny, and I do normally make this a part of my story. Like, I'll never forget after college, you know, I got really interested in drugs, as in, like, drug shows, like actual informative shows. The discoveries of the worlds, all these different things, intervention. You know, I watched those things, you know, and a part of it was because of my younger brother passing, right? But as I look back, I'll never forget there was this one episode. This older lady, she was probably like 60. She worked at a department store. In the morning before she went to the department store, she picked up like 6 minis, vodka minis. At lunch, she went back and she got like 4 more. And then when she got off, she went back and got booze for the night, right? And I was like, dude, what the fuck? How is she drinking all those minis that early in the day? What the fuck? Like, that's wild. I was drinking minis and out of liters every morning by 7:30.
Yeah.
Just like that lady.
Uh-huh.
And I questioned how anybody could ever get there.
Yeah. Until you find yourself there, man.
Until you're there and you
Yeah.
got no way out.
Yeah.
No way out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, until you kind of pop your own head out of your ass and realize that, you know, the way that I'm living is not conducive to any way that I want to live, and I'm going to lose everything, right? Like, I didn't so much lose a real big job or lose my house. Like I said, I had to pay mortgage and, you know, rent at a sober living facility. I didn't lose my car. I didn't lose those things. I was losing everyone in myself, right? What made me go to rehab? My wife told me she was going to leave. She's going to leave. I was like, damn, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go to rehab. Here we are 3.5 years later, and I'm telling you how I couldn't even imagine sitting down and taking a drink.
Yeah.
You know, that's fucking crazy to me.
dude.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I like recovery. I like doing all the different parts of it. You know, there was a day where I went to 6 meetings a week, man. You know, and I loved it. 2 children do not make a schedule in any sort of fashion or way for anybody to get to 6 meetings a week, unless you just are like, yeah, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna go to meetings all my life.
Yeah. No, that's the truth, man. Yeah, dude. But I don't see any other way, man. I mean, not saying 6 meetings, but I'm just saying the drinking, the drugging to where you want to be. Not necessarily at times. Chase and I, we talk about it, Patrick, that, you know, sometimes we do get down, especially with the business and this. Like, we don't know how to do a lot of this stuff, dude. Like, we're just figuring this out and, like, struggling at times and frustrated at times.
It reverts me back to those times of clamor and like, Patrick, why can't you complete this? Right? And there's situations that I get into these days, and you know, like, I sit there and I'm praying. I'm like, how do I make right of this? What is going on? You know, all these different things. You know, I hear about passings of people in the recovery community, all those different things, and it's just, you think about it, and it's like, it all goes back to, you know, this is how dangerous this disease is. You know, I was living on that line. It was, you know, and I tell people that use, you know, hard drugs as well. It's like, dude, I mean, you never know when it's your last one.
Yeah.
There's no telling what's in there, how much of it, and you have no chance. And you may get away with it for another 6 months. You may die on your next shot.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of what this is, right?
We joke about it, dude. It's like, you can't even do cocaine with your buddies anymore.
And so, all right, so this is what I'm saying. And this is show you how warped my mindset is. So, like, when I was getting right out of rehab, it's like, listen, cocaine is a hell of a drug. It is so much fun until the next morning.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, but everybody has ruined that for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Because you ain't getting real cocaine
No,
anymore.
can't even go have a good night with cocaine with your friends
Can't even
anymore.
just pour out a couple of lines on a
Can't even do
mirror or a desk and snort a line up like the Hoover
And
go about your night.
You can't do that anymore, bro.
And that's the part of it. It's like, I used to think it was like, listen, I mean, if you're not an addict and you can get away with doing cocaine, more power to you. That shit's great. Same, I mean, Molly, you know, that's how I was about that. I mean, it's like that stuff. Woo! But say I were to go back out, and I'm an alcoholic, right? I can try this. That first bag, boom, drop dead. That'd be my luck.
Oh, dude.
That'd be my luck.
I remember just sitting there, like, so I lived out in Utah for about roughly 5 years. And so, like, I got big into the electronic music. I'll just be honest
I know
with
what
you.
you're talking about.
So, the Molly, the ecstasy, all that. And I'm taking these drugs from the most random people. Just like...
What did I tell you about that Soundtribe show?
I know. Yeah.
I went to Soundtribe by myself while my brother and them went to do other things in Atlanta. And and this is one other thing about me, is I always somehow ran into drug dealers.
Oh, yeah.
Drug dealers knew me.
Because we were looking for it.
But also it was
and they found me. I'm like, how'd you find me? They're like, because I was looking for you, you know? Like, whoa.
I'm serious. That is a part of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I can look back and I'm like, God dang, how did I always end up finding these people or them finding me? You know, it's like... you just, you know, I mean, that's just the part of me. It's like, I didn't know these guys from anybody. They're like, hey, man, you want to keep up? Yeah, sure, love it.
Yeah.
Hey, man,
What is this, man? Yeah.
Yes, that too. Let me have that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, what's your name? Where are you from? We didn't even get there.
Yeah,
We just did drugs together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's the kind of, like, caution that, you know, the heat of caution that I never took, that I didn't think something was going to happen to me. Because I was doing what everybody else was.
Yeah.
I was doing what everybody else was.
Yeah.
Me drinking and smoking pot or any of those things that I did in college was not abnormal.
Yeah.
I saw it every day. every day
Yeah.
to varying degrees.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can get down on myself, and yeah, my addiction and what I did, it is fully on me. I made those decisions. But the way all this was presented to me was contrasting to what it turned out to be,
Yeah.
right? Like, everybody else was doing it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's not just my fraternity house. You go to the next fraternity house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you go to the apartment upstairs or the apartment downstairs.
Yeah.
Guess what? They've got theirs.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, I've got some very specific stories in Old Tuscaloosa as well. So it's normalized there. Honestly.
Well, and also, I mean, downtown Tuscaloosa's safe. It's a beautiful campus. All those different things. How many times did I go meet a drug dealer out in the middle of nowhere, just outside of Tuscaloosa, buy some train tracks or something?
Yeah.
I even called one back one time to say we didn't get it all that we were supposed to, and went back and met that guy again.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that I just didn't know.
It was normal. It was normal.
My buddy, he's the one who told me that that's where he goes and get his bags from. So that's where I would go get mine from.
Yeah. That's my friend, man. That's my friend, dude.
He is.
That's my buddy.
Yeah. No,
He gives me drugs. He's my friend.
is.
He's the coolest guy. Dude, he's
Some
cheap.
people
He's
call
cool. He always gives you the hookup,
Sometimes
man.
they give him this cool nickname of the plug.
Yeah, man.
He's called the
He's the
plug.
coolest dude in the world. He's the coolest guy. I love to hang out with him all the time. He's just real busy.
Yeah, he's
He's
always
just
running
real
around.
busy,
His
man.
phone rings a lot, so it's hard to catch him.
Yeah.
Really
It
weird.
makes so much he has 2 or 3 phones.
Yeah.
To keep up with all the phone calls.
Lifestyle of the rich and famous
Yeah.
Kyle is living.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
No.
Oh, God, how dumb was I? But yes, I mean, a lot of experiences in my life that led me to the way that I am. I did not deal with all of them in the ways that I should have. Some of them I have to look back on, and I cannot fault myself for them. I knew better. I knew no better than to do what I was doing. I was trying to survive, right?
Yeah.
And that's a part of everybody's story that I know, that I come across in these rooms. Again, what's unique to mine is my story, literally fighting with the district attorney in a big room, yelling at a district attorney, basically giving him the birds, That's unique to mine, right? Everybody else has got a story. You've got a story. You've got a story. They've got a story. Everybody's got a story. And it doesn't make me unique anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just so thankful and grateful to all the people that, made me do it, that that gave me the ultimatums. Because I told you earlier when we were talking, for me growing up, I learned by people yelling at me and telling me how to do it right. Mm-hmm. That's how I learned. Because guess what? I didn't want to get yelled at again. And then I would do it right the next time, And, boy, I had to learn the hard way with this one, and it turned out that I needed somebody, all those people to yell at me, tell me how disappointed they were in me, how I needed to be somewhere else, that I needed help. It took every single bit of that.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever been posed with the question of, would you have quit earlier if you could have?
I mean, probably in a different way, but
I would say yes. A lot of times, because maybe I'd have a little bit more money, because I spent a lot of money on
well, yeah. But that's the thing is,
But other than that, I know to this day that it took what it took.
Yeah.
It did. And it took every one of those events, of me getting knocked down to the size of an ant and realizing how I'm pissing everyone off to finally change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that question that you just said was, I've been asked that in ways, but and I go back to it thinking I definitely, and like you said, and that's kind of my go-to is like, man, how much money I would have had or how much I would have saved and all this. But
avoided a lot of time.
But here's the thing, is like, we're addicts, we're alcoholics, I would have found something different to spend that money on.
Yeah, and I would have still been lost all that time.
Yeah, so I had to go through what I had to go through to learn.
Yeah.
So would I go back to change it? No. Would I change things that I did? Of course. But can I? No.
Yeah.
So what can I do to make things better in my life going forward? And that's what we try to do
And
now.
not go back to the way that I was, right? You know, it's the same thing, like, you know, I'm almost there, right? Like, and I don't announce this at a meetings, you know, I just say my name when I go. But a lot of people like to say I'm a grateful recovering addict, right? There's a person that I listen to regularly on a podcast, and she says it, and I'm slowly almost 100% there, that I'm grateful for everything that happened to me, even as bad as all of it was. Now, let's not, in the addiction world, not like my younger brother.
Yeah.
But you know, all of that, I am grateful because I get to live this way of life now, right? Like, I am only 40. Let's say I make it to 75. That's about as far as I want to go, just letting y'all know. I got 35 more years. 35 more years. Now, maybe that would have only been 10 if I was still drinking and drugging, but 10 more years of that low life living? How? This is a question that pops in my head. How long did I actually think I could keep running?
Yeah.
At what point did I not be like, oh yeah, you know, like, you're not, you are human. You're not just going to be able to keep going this way. Like, at what point did I think that this was going to all end?
No.
I never thought about it.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, the thing is, dude, is we talked about it with a guy yesterday too, man. And it's not even the point of how far or how long you can run. It's how long you're going to take yourself out, whether it was drinking the drugs or, like you said earlier, was more the line of like that drug's going to take you out sooner or later.
Yeah.
So that's
is
it. You don't have
undefeated.
10 years.
It is
Or you're going to get so daggum depressed. And this is the ultimate reality, man, because I seen it. I almost did it. But suicide, man. What are you going to do you're taking yourself out either way. That's the ultimate reality, dude. That's the reality of it. Somehow, some way, you're taking your own self out.
Yeah.
That's the destruction part.
Well, and that I just, you know, I continued to let that. Like, I continued that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else kept waking
And I
up
thought
and
the
putting,
craziness of it.
Nobody else kept
Like, it was
waking
real.
up and
Like,
putting bottles in my hand.
Yeah.
I had to go to the store and buy those and
Yeah.
bring those home and empty them out myself.
Yeah. So
Nobody made me do that.
And that's the crazy part, man. And then like you said, it's just living in that reality. I have this kind of a similar thing, man. It's like when I went to rehab too, it was the factor of, I didn't know it was a 6-month thing. I had no idea, dude. I went to detox. I literally did, dude. I went to detox.
Didn't know I was going to a 6-month program.
I didn't, dude. I was sitting there, I was talking, like I went to detox because they were like, you got to go tonight. And I was like, what? To detox? I was like, no. And then ended up going, man, and I got out like a couple
Reason still unknown.
Yeah, and then so we're on our way to Coleman, Alabama, and I'm on the phone and talking to people and anybody and everybody. I'm like, yeah, I'll see you in 30 days. And my mom was taking me, and she's like looking at me crazy, and like I was just like, yeah. She's like, we gotta talk. She's like, hang up the phone. Like, we gotta talk. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll see you in 30 days. And like, she's like,
Not
it ain't 30 days. And I was like, what do you mean? I read a pamphlet or something. I guess I read the wrong pamphlet. And
read the extended stay pamphlet.
And she's like, it's 6 months. I was like, screw. I was like, 6 months? I can't do that. No way. What are you talking about? I got a truck payment. I got this.
They're like,
how am I going to pay for my phone, man? How am I going to pay?
We're about to take that off and cut it off from you, so you don't need it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's those realities that they're like, oh, listen, that truck, you don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need
You don't
it.
need transportation for 6
Yeah,
months, buddy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't need that. It's
I
cool.
was like,
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
What do you mean I can't have it? Yeah, you can. I'm like, and there I was, my dumbass. I was trying to bring my saute pans and my own,
Yeah.
chef's knives up there.
Yeah.
Is that not just so far from reality?
Yeah, dude.
I can't
But I
go
understand.
there.
I get it though.
I know you two do.
Yes, I understand
But
that.
I mean, I even look back and I laugh at myself. I'm like, God, I told him I couldn't bring. There was only one kitchen, and the only time I ever went into that kitchen was when I had duty to clean up dishes after the meals.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go in there. There wasn't no personal KitchenAid kitchen in my room with 4 other people.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's crazy, man. What a life.
Yeah.
in 2 of them, right? You know, I've had at least 2, and hopefully I keep it to that way, right? I don't ever want to go off and have to reinvent myself again.
Not fun, dude.
I'm happy
Yeah.
with the way that I am today. I can tell people it's been a rough day when in reality, like everybody says, these were problems I was begging to have
Yeah.
when I was inactive. If only all I had to do was go and submit this state form for whatever, just random stuff like that would have been great. But man, yeah, I mean it's crazy how far it can take you out. Like you were just saying, I mean it like you will end up in another realm.
Yeah.
At some point with people that see you and you can't see you.
Yeah. You have no
have
idea
no-
who you are.
And another thing, speaking of which on that, and I'll finish with this, like there's somebody else that says all the time, my morals and my ethics, my life was falling apart and going downhill so fast that my morals and my ethics could not keep up with me.
Yeah.
Right? Like I didn't want
The
to
lies.
be this way, but everything else was going so far away that was taken away.
I tell him all the time, it's like my wrong was right because I lied to myself for so long that my equilibrium was wrong. I'm like, it's just like I'm not killing nobody, I'm not raping anybody, but I'm still extorting people. I'm still doing all these things.
I'm stealing, I'm lying.
I would say like this is okay.
It's not that though. But
Yeah.
it's not that yet.
Yes, but it was just like I thought that was okay because I was so far here. This was my new like normal life, and I was so disconnected from everything. I had to weave and I'm still weaving myself back at times. I joke with Chase. I'm like, yeah, dude, he's in jail. Like, what was he doing? He was like selling drugs. I was like, well, it really ain't that bad. But I'm like, it could be worse. He didn't kill anybody.
You should have heard the story I heard last night, and believe me, he's doing just fine.
He's doing like,
Yeah.
it's really not that bad, really, if you think about
But
it.
I kept saying that too. That's really not that bad, man. I'm just hammering 3 pints of vodka a day. Get off me. That's not bad. Well, Patrick, that was only by 5 o'clock. I know, but then I went to beer.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
And the beer wasn't even that. I drank White Claws, man. What are White Claws,
I was
man?
too.
Yeah. Like, what are... And
crazy,
the
dude.
funny thing is, I'll tell you this, is I drank White Claws thinking I was masking the smell of because nobody could smell it on me. So I drank these drinks because I was like, what? I mean, they're water. It's water. It's water, man.
It's flavored water.
It's flavored water. It's got a little bit of alcohol in it,
Just
man.
a little bit.
And
Not
you
a
can't
lot.
smell it.
Not 5%.
You
No,
can't
not
smell
that
it.
much.
You
Well,
can't smell
I
it.
mean, you say that. I mean, listen, I went around and I thought I'd solved all the problems by drinking vodka.
Yeah.
Because tequila, you can smell from a
yeah.
household apart.
yeah.
Vodka, nah, you good. Nobody smells that.
Yeah.
You just slug it and never brush your teeth and just keep putting it down there.
Yeah.
And nobody
I
will
had
know.
a cut, dude. I just had to put some rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
That's probably what you smell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I fell down. I cut myself, dude. Put some rubbing alcohol. It's not for my breath.
I remember-
That's actually not as funny as you think anymore. Because I'll never forget when I went to rehab and people were in there getting in trouble for drinking whole
yeah.
things as hand
All day,
sanitizer.
dude.
And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
You know?
The first time I got arrested, the cop. I told the cop. This was when I was like, I don't know, like 16, 17 or something. But he was like, I blew, and he goes, well, you been drinking? I said, no, I haven't, man. I said, dude, we're at a party. I was like, I took a swig of Listerine. I was like, that's what's blowing. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like in my head, like, and this is how delusional I was.
This is the answer, and it's a good one.
At this age. So, and it got progressively worse as I got an adult, but like, it was like, that's what I told the cop.
I lied about.
That's what I told the cop. Like, he's an idiot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about.
They're like, so what? You put half an ounce of mouthwash in you, and your whole.
So you're drinking mouthwash? That's even worse, kid. Like what? No. I swished it.
Swish it, dude.
Like he's like, dude, you're an idiot.
Yeah, but see, none of that does surprise me. Like, you know, I blamed an empty bottle of vodka that was hidden deep in my own closet.
On
the workers trying to fix my damn house, poor fellas.
Yeah.
You know? And
man's trying to make an honest living.
Guy's just sitting there trying to, you know, finish his work. He's in pain, and here I am blaming empty bottles of vodkas on it. I mean, I was the guy that went to Rite Aid and told her I went to Walgreens.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I just did. I just lied to lie.
Yeah.
How do you get yourself out of that? Well, I mean, you go so long, you never can.
Yeah.
When you talk about weaving,
yeah.
I mean, it was just. But, you know, and I will see now, especially with newcomers and sponsees, like, I can understand it. You know, like, I don't get upset when they're flatlined in my face and they're drinking behind my back every single second, because I did anything I could to protect my disease.
Yeah.
Anything I could to protect my disease, and that's what they're doing. Now, I mean, you know, I have to sometimes go in and talk to my sponsor when I'm like, you see this text message what this person just sent me? And then the next day I found out this.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta. My sponsor's Patrick. Did you ever tell your first sponsor a truth ever? I'm like, no. Did he know you were drinking the whole time? No, he did not. All right. There's your answer.
Yeah.
And that sums it up.
Yeah.
So.
Man. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on, dude.
No, I greatly appreciate it. Yeah. I like this environment, these kind of things, you know, the Firefly approach, talk about it, you know, when I tell my story, I do it in a little different way, right? I start at the beginning and kind of, you know, go all the way through the years. But yeah, this kind of part I get to interact, right? Like I get to listen to some things that y'all get to say, right?
Yeah.
And questions that y'all kind of pose, and you know, you can feed off those things. Like right now, I've known you guys for
since 9 o'clock.
11:30. And you know, and now it's like you know, y'all, you can look at me and just shake your head, yeah. You don't question anything.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing, dude.
Yeah, it is. The community is a beautiful thing, and if you're out there and you're not trying to utilize that, I highly suggest it. I mean, I have met some of the best friends I have, you know, in this program. I went to Iceland because of the program, because of a hat I was wearing. And the first time I ever went and sat in a 6:30 a.m. meeting for a guy that wrote me his number on a piece of paper and left for 3 weeks and never heard from him again, you know. And now we are close. We talk on a daily basis pretty much, you know. And if not, we see each other at the next meeting.
I want to go to Iceland.
It's awesome.
I'm just kidding.
It's so awesome. You do.
I know. No, I wasn't kidding about that.
It was really...
let me use your friend, man.
It was really an experience, you know. But that's the kind of things that he wants to do in sobriety. Like, he still wants to go and see music. That's a big part of his life. It was all through his using. Yeah. Right? It was for me, too.
That's what I need, man, honestly, because I love music, too. But, like, you know, and because we're a little over a year, man, so it's like, it's easing back into those things. But then, you know, it's finding more people I can connect with and then go do those things with, because... Yeah, I could do it by myself, but am I ready? I don't think so.
So, you know, for me, like, the first show that I went to out of all those things was a Fish show.
Yeah.
Right? And I went with my older brother, so he was going to keep tight wraps on me anyways.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it, dude. You know, I went to that first show, and it was like, look at that line, look at that line. And the music is beautifully playing right up here on stage, and I'm just sitting here enjoying it.
Yeah.
I don't have to leave.
Yeah.
Man.
I don't have to get booze. I don't have to try and hide to smoke pot. I don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to do any of those things. You can truly just live
Yeah.
and enjoy
Just
it.
enjoyed the shit out.
Well,
Yeah.
And remember the
but that's why I love the
sadness.
outdoors too, man. You know.
It does it for me, right? You know, when
Yeah.
I can get out and all those things, you know, to put my mind at ease. You know, I mean, like the only way I used to ride mountain bikes, tumbling down mountains, beers and pot, right?
Same.
Guess what?
Right there with you, brother.
Mountain biking is so peaceful out there without any substances. And you don't have anything to blame it on when you wreck. You
Yeah.
say, well,
The tree just grew
that
up right
last
there.
IPA was a 9.2. That's probably the reason I ran into it.
Yeah.
You know? No, you dumbass.
Yeah.
No. So, but again, I appreciate y'all's time.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And,
We said that you can give money, you can give a lot of things, but giving your time says a lot to us because you can't get that back. man.
well, that like I told you when we first had the conversation. What did I tell you about rehab? You know, I loved my counselors. I loved all those people that taught me a lot and that I still listen to, whether it's via Instagram, podcast, things like that. But I'll never forget the first time somebody came in and sat down and told their story to us, and I was just like, wow, that is the same exact chaos and the realness that person did, with the cussing, and some people don't love all that.
Yeah.
And I get it. That's okay.
Cool.
I'm okay with you being that way. It shows the depth for me. It brings home points to talk about that raw stuff that people don't want to talk about.
Right.
Those times where, deepest, darkest secrets, you can get out there and you can talk about those things. And, and that's what this is, because that made me realize, because when I was sitting in that rehab, guess how I felt? I felt like the biggest piece of shit on
Yeah.
earth. Here I am,
Yeah.
pissed off everybody in the world. They were so mad they sent me off.
They got rid of me.
They got rid of me.
They got rid of me.
And there I was, and oh, poor piss on me, and then somebody comes in and drops that, and it's like, oh.
So I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Well, not only am I not alone, it's like, like all these things that, that I could pee-pot over, and why I was too good for rehab and didn't need it and all that shit.
Yeah, it's for quitters, man.
Yeah, that's what I was told at one time.
Me too.
Guess what? I fucking quit.
Yeah.
I had enough.
I'm glad. And I'm
Here's
glad.
the towel. I'm throwing it
Yeah.
in, guys. I'm done, dude.
Yeah.
Only
done.
took,
I'm
me,
out.
only took me an extra 15-day, final lap around to really get that driven home for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, y'all. Thank y'all
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
show them some love, guys. Show them some love, man. We appreciate y'all. Love y'all.